Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. It's time for the newspaper review segment. Let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The major story here is talking on insecurity matters, saying bandits in military uniform abduct 20 in Abuja. The writers are saying two attackers captured, that's according to police, estates by pump action, and other weapons for vigilantes. We have been taxed to fix police vehicle. That's according to residents. I mean, this is a very uh, dramatic turn of event, if I may say so myself, where the police are asking residents to fix their vehicle in order to get them, at least to protect them. You'll find this story in page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Below the headlines there we have Kano governor buys 2.7 billion naira vehicles for lawmakers. Okay, another the situation that will anger Nigerians, or should I say the Kano people at this point. World leaders react as Iran's president is buried today. That sad situation. Minimum wage, no going back on May 31st ultimatum, says the labor union. Below the headlines there we have UBA at 75. Okay, how we grew customer base to 45 million. That's according to the GMD. Federal government reviews 14 trade subjects syllabi, decries teachers shortage. You find that on page 6. I mean, you would expect that, of course, but I need 35 different visas to travel within Africa. That's according to one of the most richest African, Dangote, or Dangote as we call him here. You find that on page 6. Beside these stories is a pictorial of the Vice President Kashim Shettima and the MD and CEO of the Northeast Development Commission, that is the NEDC, Mohammed G. Al-Ghali, and the Bauchi State Governor Senator Bala Mohammed at the NEDC pavilion during the 15th Northeast Trade Fair in Bauchi this 2024. Below the pictorial, we see youth hits jackpot with Notcoin in crypto trading. I mean, we had Bitcoin, but now that it's going down, there is Notcoin. Token gets high profile listing on the Binance and major exchanges. You find this story on page 24. These are the stories that you find on the Daily Trust newspaper. Let's move on to the Punch. From the top of the page there, it says food imports hit 3 trillion naira over flooding insecurity. That's according to the CBN. Judges' salaries reviewed 17 years ago, says the AGF. As the Assistant Accountant General of the Federation. Wike Fubara face-off can destabilize the Niger Delta. That's according to the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. Minimum wage, Labour insists on May 31st deadline as talks resume today. The major story here is about the student loan. 1.2 million beneficiaries listed as scheme begins on Friday. Students in 226 tertiary institutions to benefit. Admission later, the NIN, BVN needed for this process. You find that on page 2. And below the major story, there's a pictorial of the sad situation that happened to the Iranian president. World leaders mourn as Iran probes president and minister's death as expected. Of course, below there we see UBA will meet 500 billion naira capital base before deadline. That's according to CFO. Lagos seal 840 event centers, according to the commissioner. Tariff hike, workers lock out minister and issue 14-day ultimatum. Now, these are the stories that you'd find on the Punch newspaper this morning. Let's move on to the first news, where the major story is talking about. Okay, the major story says urges Jonathan intervenes in Rivers crisis, urges Fubara and Wike to end feud for state stability. Says one hand does not clap, it takes two hands to clap. Indeed. Below the headmaster, we see terrorists abduct 20 residents in violent Abuja community. Biden slams ICC prosecutors' call for Netanyahu's arrest as outrageous. Okay. Gunmen behead 2, abduct 7 in the grisly Ebonyi State attack. Peter Obi's only presidential chance in 2039. That's according to Daniel Bwala. Beside the headmaster, it says Kanu challenges the court's ruling, blast government over bill rejection, says I can't be tried in Nigeria. Supreme Court ruled I did not jump the bill. At the middle of the page there, Iran declares 5 days of mourning against or after Rais's death as Tinubu joins world leaders in mourning Iranian president. Nigerians will suffer if judges are underpaid once the CJN. And of course, there is a pictorial of the former president and the governor of Rivers State. May 31st deadline, labor unions mobilize for nationwide strike over minimum wage and electricity tariff hike. The EFCC arrests 78 suspected internet fraudsters in Enugu and Imo State. Now, these are the stories that you will find on the first news. Now, let's quickly take a look at the Guardian newspaper, where the major story is talking about school feeding of 10 million kids. The federal government in dilemma as inflation spikes meal budget to 540 billion naira. I mean, there's a breakdown of all of that. You see the infography of that prices of food items in the market currently. Beside that, we see federal government reached 75% of domestic borrowing target for 2024, says the DMO. Kwara repatriates beggars allegedly keeping arms for criminals. Okay. Jonathan wades into the Wike Fubara feud as Clark knocks Ganduje Damagum for alleged complicity. The electricity workers issue 2-week ultimatum on TCN on bundling tariff hike, and Kano governors releases 376 million naira to complement pilgrims and BTA as naira weakens. The Labour threatens strike issues May 31st as ultimatum for the new minimum wage. Now, these are the stories that you'd find on the Guardian newspaper. All right, now, of course, we have our reviewer, Dr. Theophilus Abba. He's a program director of Daily Trust Foundation, joining us this morning to dissect the front pages. Good morning, Doctor. It's good to have you, as usual.
Thank you.
Doctor, let's talk about insecurity again. You know, yesterday there was this same kind of situation on the front page where a custom officer, you know, his wife was abducted and his brother, and the wife is pregnant. And one of our major concerns is the fact that we hear this insecurity in rural places, but then it's coming to the nation's capital. It's something that would definitely scare off, you know, financial investors. We're talking about the foreign investors. So what is your take on these bandits in military uniform abducting 20 in Abuja again?
Actually, I commend the judgment of the editors who made it a lead story, because I mean, these days, because banditry is rampant, you may say, oh, it's just another bandit attack. But the fact that this happened in Abuja, and Dawaki is not a suburb. Dawaki is almost at the heart of, it's not, maybe not the city center, but very close to the city, you know, opposite a very huge estate, you know. And the fact that these bandits, you know, were so daring, you know, they came dressed in military uniform, although that is not totally strange, because over time we have seen them, both terrorists and bandits, you know, in order to deceive people, to show a measure of authority, you know, they dress in military uniform to make people feel that, oh, these guys are soldiers, you know, they have come to carry out a legitimate operation. Then they begin to demonstrate that they are not, they are not protecting the people, you know. So it's quite disturbing. The fact is that these people don't go to any community by chance. Let me put it that way. It's not like, oh, they just have a brainwave. I say, let's go to this estate. No, you know, there must be informants. You know, somebody must have told them that, look, this kind of persons are there. This kind of individual is there. This is where he lives. You know, and this is what he has. And we can go there and dispossess him or arrest. I mean, abduct him or adopt some family members and then begin to negotiate. Most times when they enter into a place like that, they may not be very, very sure of the person they have come to abduct. But then others, they just round up as many persons as possible. Now, I look at their number from the stories that there are about 50 of them. So the objective was to overwhelm the community. It's like they were aware that there was a measure of security in that area. So what they now did was to say, okay, I mean, even if they are policemen, I know they cannot send 100 policemen to that place. Even if they send 100 policemen, they won't give them enough weapons. So let's overwhelm the environment. Let's, so, and that is the thinking. By the time they come in their numbers and overwhelm the environment, everybody would either run away. Security men would not be able to tackle them, and will carry out their assignment, what I call evil assignment, and then they will disappear.
Indeed. I mean, Doctor, but speaking about the numbers, even when they are 50 in numbers, in the nation's capital alone, we know we can produce more than 50 policemen in Abuja. So one of the things that people tend to complain about is, the quick response. That I mean, the response where people would reach out to the authorities immediately, but they will not be able to reach there. Now, the residents are saying that police taxed them for payments of to fix their police vehicle.
Well, that is actually, is either a blackmail or it's an embarrassment. Because I know that the FCT has been funding the police. So I don't know where the funds have entered into, to the point that it is the residents that will have to, repair or buy a patrol van for the police in that environment. I think this has to be probed. The FCT must probe that kind of activity. But the important thing is this, is to tell us that we need more security men in Abuja. Although we talk about all over the country, but in Abuja, you need more security men. Because if these guys can do this in Dawaki, they can actually do it in Metama, and they can do it in Asukuru. They can do it in Wuse. If they can do this successfully in Dawaki, so which that there's no part of Abuja that is totally safe, And then police officers, the personnel, they must be at alert. You can't have that kind of attack. It didn't take place in 10 minutes. Maybe it took more than 10 minutes. You understand? And then we had they say DSS guys came and challenged them. They shot and they were able to abduct 20. If we had effective policing.
Because this is a job of a police.
If we had it, as soon as it was noticed that these guys were not policemen, that before they completed, they would just round up the place, and arrest as many if they're going to escape. Not all of them, as many as, over, they say they're over 50. Only 2 of them were captured or so. So all of them eventually disappeared.
And there's expectation of them coming back again.
So it's quite unfortunate, and it means that we should not take anything for granted. We should not think that, this is Abuja, it is safe. It could happen in Katsina, it can happen in Zamfara, it can also happen in Abuja.
Of course, Doctor. All right, moving on from security matters. The minimum wage, of course, negotiation continues today. And we saw the NEC yesterday talking about the fact that the labor's demand is too much, and the nature of it's not something that can work. So what do you think this outcome of this would be, and also the ultimatum that the labor union has given?
Well, the unfortunate thing is that the negotiation ought to have, come to a logical conclusion by now. It is going to come into effect on the 31st of May. We expect that by now, everybody should know that, this is the minimum wage that has been agreed upon. And it's taking almost a year now, because the minimum wage issue came up even at the beginning of this administration. And
it's supposed to take just 6 months.
And we're talking about the living wage, not even minimum wage. Tinubu promised a living wage. So we expect that, there ought to have been a kind of reconciliation between labor and the government team, to the point that by now, Nigerians should say, okay, yes, from 31st of May, this is going to be the minimum wage. Now, you see, the issue, as far as I'm concerned, is not even the quantity of money that will be paid, but what the money can buy. You see, because if you say, okay, minimum wage, 615,000, fine. And that 615,000 cannot buy a bag of rice. So, what use is it? So, what we expect government to do is to find a way of revaluing, shoring up the value of the naira. Because as long as naira keeps plunging, we cannot have enough minimum wage. If the minimum wage is, let's say, 45,000, just like the government proposed 45,000, and we are buying fuel for, let's say, 100 naira a liter, you will not bother. If the minimum wage is 45,000, you can buy a bag of rice for 5,000. It wouldn't mean that. You will not be worried. Me, I'm thinking that it's time for us to remove the zeros in our currency, so that maybe 1,000 naira can become 100 naira, because it is embarrassing. It affects my psyche if things I used to buy for 20 naira becomes 50, like pure water.
Yeah.
Pure water used to be 10 naira, 5 naira. Now pure water is 50 naira. It is unbelievable.
And because of that, our lower denominations have
disappeared.
Gone out of existence.
So the important thing is actually to see how we can ensure that the value of the naira, returns. I don't know whether it's a matter of returning, but we have to make sure that we show up the value of the naira, because the money is actually what it can buy. It's not the quantity. If you have like the Zimbabwean dollars, you say they have millions. You can say you have 10 million Zimbabwean dollars. You cannot buy a loaf of bread. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. So, and we need to see government act. We need to see government act. Some of the things that are happening now are not giving us, the courage, to believe that government is actually serious. I still see this thing like what you say in secondary school, beating about the bush. Nothing is really. We don't see anything that is being done genuinely. It's like, if there's this crisis today, you implement this, tomorrow you implement that, you remove this tariff, you return it, and all sorts of things. There's no structure as far as I'm concerned. I may be wrong, but I don't see any structured approach to tackling our challenges in Nigeria. It's like, okay, today let's remove the subsidy, tomorrow let's return it. So it's not organized.
Yeah.
I think maybe that is the right word. We are not seeing an organized system that will give us the confidence that even if we are suffering today, tomorrow things will be better. They keep saying, just be patient. Patient. We are not even seeing what is the structure, what is the plan. We are not seeing.
At least there should be one thing has been implemented, and Nigeria has seen the success.
Okay, the other time we say the naira was gaining value. It was about 1,900. About 980, $1,003. We say, well, maybe we have got to the equilibrium point. Now it's about 1.5 again.
Yeah, we're way
so
back
which means that it's even getting fluid. So if we were thinking that if naira was gaining value, then the price of things should reduce. But then if a month ago it was 900 or 980 to $1, and today it's 1,005, then the traders will say, well, we have not come out of the woods.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see how this agreement works out, or negotiation work out for Nigerians. All right, Doctor, let's take a look at the major story on The Guardian. We're talking about school feeding and promising 10 million kids. Now, the federal government is confused. It says it's in dilemma as inflation spikes and it meets the budget. So the meal budget now has risen to 540 billion naira. Now, the fear of all of this, we saw even earlier, we had a caller complaining that with this school feeding program and initiative, there are a lot of states and local government, even schools, that have never even been fed. So with all of this, are you skeptical about corruption eating into the system?
Well, when you talk about the school feeding program, if you have read the National Policy on Education, especially the Act setting up UBEC, Universal Basic Education, it is there that school children, minimum at the primary and junior secondary school, mainly primary school, should be fed. And the objective is to say, well, they will be excited about going to school, and their parents will not have this burden of saying, I don't have money to give to my son to go to school, because his parents will be eating maybe rice, eating moi, and he will not have it to eat. So my son will not go to school, I don't have money. The idea was that if these children are expecting to see food or to eat food at school, one, they'll be excited about going to school, then they will learn. Now, it has been an act of the National Assembly, although the previous administration tried to revive it to make it look like, well, they were the one that came up with it. It's something that has been there in the record. Now, the idea of school feeding, secondly, was to say that the food that these children will eat will be grown within that community. And that is to say, in Abuja here, the food we are going to give to children in primary schools, in junior secondary schools, mainly primary schools in Abuja, should be grown within Abuja. And that means that, one, it will boost the economy. Secondly, it will be nutritious, and it will be cost effective. Now, if all these were, were adhered to, perhaps this kind of inflation that we're talking about wouldn't be there.
I mean,
I don't see any reason why some of the schools that we have, especially in Abuja, let me talk about Abuja and some of the neighboring, even in the north, why schools will not be able to grow the food they can use to feed their children? If the schools have enough land, they can grow the kind of food they can use. But then, you see, we know that inflation is catching up with whatever we have budgeted, but we also know that government is getting more money. You know, for instance, I think they shared over 1 trillion. Was it not 2 days ago? I'm talking of state government. They shared over 1 trillion. It wasn't like that. In the past, it was maybe 600 billion, 700 billion. I don't think it went beyond 800 billion, but they are sharing over 1.something trillion. So if they are sharing so much, then government should be ready, you know, to put more money, you know, in the school feeding program. Because as long as, the young ones are not enticed to go to school, as long as they know that when they get to school, they will not have food to eat, so they will not go. So we will have many out-of-school children, which is not good for the Nigerian population, you know. And it's not only Nigeria that is implementing school feeding. Many countries in Asia and other parts of Africa are implementing it, and it has been effective. The problem we have is that I don't think we have got our numbers right. How many children are we feeding? I don't think the number is right.
Yeah.
Then how much are we going to spend on feeding them? We have discovered that in most places the cost of meal has been inflated.
Yeah,
and also of corruption involved. Like
that was what I was.
We did some investigations some years ago.
But honestly, due to time, we have to put a stop.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you so much, Doctor. As usual, it's a pleasure talking to you, Dr. Theophilus Abba. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was our discussion with Dr. Theophilus Abba, the Program Director of Daily Trust Foundation. Thank you so much for watching the show. We have come to the end of Daybreak this Tuesday morning. Please do stick around. At the top of the hour, Adeni Ajishefe will bring you 360 Sport. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Do have a lovely day.